She's coming in to talk to us a little bit about her campaign for Knox County Board of Education seat number 2. It's District 2 there for the upcoming November 4th election. A very quick campaign, and currently that seat being filled. That was the seat that was vacated by India Kincannon, as she's leaving the country with her family. She's got an opportunity to go overseas, so she's doing that. So she has stepped down from that seat. The interim filling that seat, John Fugate. So he's filling that seat right now. November 4th, that seat open again, and Billy will be filled by one of these 3 candidates that are currently running, and one of those 3 candidates, Jamie Rowe. And Jamie Rowe is joining us in studio this morning, and you can find out more about Miss Rowe online, JamieRoweForSchoolBoard.com, JamieRoweForSchoolBoard.com, and it's JamieRoweFor, Schoolboard.com. Good morning, Jamie. Welcome to the Rude Awakening.
Good morning.
We appreciate you being here, and we appreciate you getting up early and coming in to talk with us. So I guess the first question, why did you decide to run?
To me, strong schools have to be part of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
And we have, if we don't have strong schools, we're not going to have strong neighborhoods,
mm-hmm.
and we're not going to have strong communities. And I've worked for that all my life. And it's really a good fit for me, mm-hmm. because of my background, my experience, and I feel like I can devote full time to it. And I think I have some very special qualifications that set me apart as a candidate.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit about your qualifications, some of your experience. What are some of the highlights of your qualifications and your background?
I think the qualifications that set me apart, I volunteered hundreds of hours in the school system. Mm-hmm. And I've also worked closely with county commissioners on a number of issues, and I can build on those relationships, mm-hmm. as we begin to discuss school funding. Also, I've brought innovative ideas to many organizations I've been a part of, such as the Shenandoah Walkathon. Mm-hmm. They've been doing that now for 32 years. They've raised over $300,000. I also do my own research. I don't just listen to the powers that be. Mm-hmm. And on many occasions, I've hired experts so I can get accurate information, and I'll continue to do that on school board. Mm-hmm. I've been a board member of Fountain City Town Hall for 15 years, and in that length of time, we've had to resolve many very complex community issues. Mm-hmm. And additionally, I was appointed to the KUB Tree Trim Policy Review Panel, mm-hmm. the Stormwater Advisory Committee, and also the Farmers Market Committee. Mm-hmm. And I cannot think of more diverse opinions than there were on all those 3 boards, yet we work together.
Sure.
So I think all that together makes me a more well-rounded candidate, and makes me the best choice for candidate.
And you've done a lot of work. You've done a lot of work with various students and children's groups for a number of years, right? I'm looking. I see Cub Scout leader. I see kindergarten through 5th grade at Shenandoah. You worked with science experiments, storytelling, the walkathon, as you mentioned, and so you have a good handle on being around a lot of these kids and around some of these schools. I
do. I actually even wrote 120 environmental programs that were integrated science with art and mm-hmm. music and social studies and English mm-hmm. for the middle school, and received a bicentennial award for mm-hmm. that.
And you're a product of Knox County Schools?
I am. Went to Smithwood and Central. My children went to Shenandoah, Gresham, and Central.
Uh-huh. So I mean that says loads right there. I mean, just the simple fact that you're a product of Knox County Schools. Your children are in Knox County Schools. Sure. So not only wanting to step in and help be a part of that system, but the fact that you are a product of that system, and your children are products of that system as well. So that
yes.
that adds a special viewpoint too as you come into it.
Yes.
Some things that have stood out, and again, the website, JamieRoweForSchoolBoard.com, JamieRoweForSchoolBoard.com, your platform, 5 points on your platform. I'm going to hit each point and let you expound on those points. And if there's a question you have for Ms. Rowe, you can weigh in on the text box, on the chat room. You want to email us, TheRudeAwakening@NoxTalkRadio.com, or you can call 865-243-TALK, 243-8255. Number one, strong public schools.
Yes. I'm a very strong believer in public schools. I know charter schools are becoming a thing that they want to talk about a lot, but charter schools have actually become a money-making venture. They have their own board. They divert public funds, and right now the FBI is investigating charter schools for financial fraud in 5 different states. That was in the paper last month. So I think those things, I have great concerns about charter schools and privatization of the schools because of that. And there's 6,000 charter schools in the United States, 50% more than we had in 2008. And in that same length of time, 4,000 public schools have closed.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear you say that, too, because I myself, I'm a product of public schools in Texas, and my children are products of public schools here in East Tennessee. You know, and if you can afford to go to a private school, great. And it's a wonderful thing to have private schools and to have that opportunity open to kids. But there was a time in this country when we had really, really strong public school systems, and we had a very high performing, a very good education you can get in a public school. And what scares me anymore, it seems like, well, rather than trying to fix the public schools, we're just going to shut them down and we're going to take everything to a private school. And that's fine, but that's not I don't think that's a solution. We can have strong public schools
Yes,
again.
we can. The best schools in the world are in Finland and Japan, and they are strong public schools, and we can do that too. Privatization's not the answer.
We owe it to our kids. We owe it to our communities to have strong public schools again. We can have them again.
Absolutely.
Why we ever went down these weird paths to kind of weaken public schools and to weaken education in schools, I don't understand. I don't know where it started to happen or why we've got to let it go so far before we suddenly realized, hey, we got a problem here. You know,
It's true.
And we've got to figure out a way to make the schools strong again. We can do it. Number 2 on your platform, open dialogue with teachers.
Yes. I think they've been listened to, but I don't think any changes have come about. And that's the thing that worries me, because repeatedly in the teacher survey and before county commission and before school board, they have repeatedly asked for changes in the observation, changes in the evaluation, in the SAT 10 testing for K through 2. And those are changes that could be made without spending any money, and it has not been done. It's just fallen on deaf ears.
Yeah. Restructuring teacher evaluations to be fair and accurate, number 3.
I know that some of the teachers have mentioned a certain type of evaluation that is state approved called the Tiger evaluation that's used in Maryville and Alcoa and also the Oak Ridge schools. I don't know that that's the one that they want to do, but I think we need to talk to the teachers, find out from this teacher advisory board that's going to reconvene what they want in an evaluation, how they feel like it's fair. We know that it's invalid to tie test scores to teacher evaluation. That's just invalid, and that should be stopped.
Sure. Number 4, equitable educational experiences across Knox County.
Right. That's something I feel really strongly about, because I feel like, well, for instance, let me just give you some examples. They tried to end agriculture at the agriculture classes that they had at Halls and also at Gibbs. Those are very important for those schools. Masonry used to be taught at Austin East. It's no longer part of the program. There were building classes, house building classes at several of the schools, and those have ended. Those things need to be reinstituted. And the single most reliable factor for determining failure in schools is poverty. And 15% of Knox County school-age children are living in poverty. And I know Diane Ravitch, who was a former U.S. Secretary of Education, recently said, if we expect standardized tests and higher standards to reduce poverty and inequality, then we expect what never was and never will be. But we can do some things. We can decrease class sizes. We can have universal pre-K for all children. We can think up some innovative ways to get more parental involvement. And we can have true community schools where we have children being tutored at the same time that their parents are taking job skills classes in computers or something. So there's many things we can do to make the situation more equitable.
And finally, number 5, transparency in all school board issues.
I think we all know what that means.
Yeah.
I've been concerned about some of the things that have gone on at the school board that have not been transparent, and I think that's real important, especially in light of things that have happened with our county government in the last few years. And I think people want it to be that way, and when it's not, we're just fueling the fire, and we're making more mistrust, and we're doing nothing to bridge the gap and cause good relationships between teachers and superintendent and school board.
Yeah, now, come on, Jamie. You know, every now and then you used to have to stop a meeting and have a private meeting in the middle of a meeting. That makes sense to everybody, right? We're talking with Jamie Rowe. Jamie Rowe is running for the 2nd District seat, Knox County Board of Education. That seat to be voted on November 4th. Early voting starting up in just a couple weeks. So it's before this we were kind of lulled into the fact that we had long terms of election coverage. We've got basically just a few weeks before it's on the table and ready to go. So we're giving you a chance to get to know one of your candidates this morning, Jamie Rowe. We've invited the other candidates as well, and oddly we're trying to get them all on for you. But if you're out there listening, hey, you're always welcome, and it's very simple. And Jamie Rowe can tell you it's not that painful. Once you initially get past Terry, then everything's pretty much smooth sailing after that. 821. If you'd like to ask Ms. Rowe a question, you can do so on the text box, on the chat room at knoxtalkradio.com, or you can call 865-243-TALK, 243-8255. Again, the website, JamieRoweForSchoolBoard.com. When we get back, we're going to talk some more about her campaign and about some of the things she sees going on with the current school board, and of course your questions, your comments, and anything else you would like as the Rude Awakening rolls on. Checking the roadway seat, District 2, Knox County Board of Education. That seat to be decided on the 4th of November. So if you do your math, early voting starting up in just a couple weeks, middle of October, and then it's into election time, and it's the only local race being decided November 4th, right?
Yes.
It's the only local race being decided November 4th, and this came up just a couple months ago when it was announced that Indy Kincannon, the longtime holder of that seat, was stepping down to travel with her family overseas, and that seat came available. It's currently being filled by interim John Fugate filling that seat. In the interim, he has said from the day he petitioned to be on that seat to fill that he wasn't going to run in November.
Right.
So then we saw 3 names come up at the onset of this election cycle. Little over 90 days. Wasn't it?
Yeah,
something like that. 94 days, I think. It was the whole cycle. But Jamie Rowe, one of those names, and she's with us here in studio this morning. Her website, JamieRoweForSchoolBoard.com. Off the text box, Otho, who's going by Othorific this morning.
Oh, okay.
Weighing in on the Tina Needham case. Hey, I'd get every penny I could out of the school system if I were Needham. McIntyre has handled this poorly. Yeah, I honestly can't blame her.
No.
It doesn't sound like anything was handled correctly from the get-go, which is why we're seeing the problem as it stands now. CJ says, when the government is not part of our public schools, I will support them, but until then, charter and private schools are the only way. I understand, CJ, but here's the thing. If you honestly think the government doesn't have some part and some role and some say into private and charter schools, you might be fooling yourself.
Well, here's the big thing. Charter schools use public money.
Yeah.
I mean, private citizens get together and using their freedom of association to educate their kids. That's what private schools are. Charter schools is when you still pay for it.
Yeah.
It's just someone else is using your money for profit as opposed to a nonprofit or a public model.
So some people say you're actually paying for a government school.
Yeah, it's all the government without any of the oversight because it's a private company.
Are you
if I
paying
can
more?
weigh in here,
Yes,
too,
please.
charter schools also can hire uncertified teachers, and the only jurisdiction a local school board has is over their charter.
Yeah. I'm all for better education for everybody, but the thing is I'm all for the fact that, too, that, like I said, there was a time in this country's history where we had very strong public schools, and communities were involved in their schools, and people and parents and teachers worked together to make sure that the schools were strong and the education was good. We need to get back to that. I don't mind public schools. I don't mind, saying that, hey, we can have a public school, because if we have a good, strong public school that the community is involved in, that the parents are involved in, then that means less government intrusion into that public school. It really does.
Yeah.
You get a good, strong community involved in a strong school, and you'll be surprised how much government intrusion you won't have.
Yeah.
When the community steps up and says, "This is our school. We need to make sure that it's strong. We need to make sure that it does what it needs to do," and that's what we need to get back to, and hopefully that's something that we can see in the near future. Really quickly, we have a phone call here. If you want to call in, you're welcome to do so. 865-243-TALK, 243-8255. Robert, good morning. You're on with Jamie Rowe.
Always a pleasure and a privilege to speak with you folks.
It's ours, sir.
And I want to thank you, ma'am, for your public service, listening to your resume. That is just an incredible list of things that you have done to volunteer and do your time for the general public. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You mentioned that they were trying to drop technical teaching and education at Halls, Gibbs, and Austin East in what sounded to me like general construction practices. Is that true?
There was a meeting recently to talk about dropping agriculture courses from Gibbs and Halls, and several board members, I think, attended that meeting, and they decided not to do that. But, those rural communities really...
What was the reason, ma'am? Why were they wanting to drop? What was the reason they gave for wanting to drop those classes? Was it monetary, or was it not seeing a good potential future career for those job areas?
It probably had to do with money, but I really did not ever hear a good reason for it. They just wanted to do it. I know that masonry used to be taught at Austin East. It's no longer a part of the program. I don't know why. I know that...
I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight on why.
Okay.
If you go out to the construction sites, ma'am, in this local area, and you really pay very close attention to the percentages of legal or illegal Latino workers, you will find that they have swamped those areas that I've talked to, that you have mentioned. And I'm wondering if they're thinking that the careers for these future people are actually viable in those fields, or they're thinking that it's not viable anymore and they need to pursue another career because they'll have a longer career overall in their life.
Well, that might be true, but I think especially with what I mentioned first about Gibbs and Halls, those are real rural communities, and a lot of family farms have been in families for generations. Those children may want to come back and farm there. They may want to become farm agents. They may want to, and I hope some of them do want to come back to raise food. We're going to need people that do that.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Thank you.
So thank you so very much for your time. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you, Robert. We appreciate it. Our number 865-243-TALK, 243-8255. We'll get back to the phones here in just 1 second. A question for you. One of the big things, and this it's been ongoing now, it seems like, for a couple of years. The past school board, not the current sitting school board, but the school board that was just in, and the drama that went on with that school board and Dr. McIntyre, and some of the things that went on, from PPU funds to security at schools, and it always seemed like there was always some new bit of drama coming down. As soon as one thing would get done, something else would come up. As soon as something would get kind of glossed over and pushed aside, something else would come up. Now we have the Tina Needham situation. We have, a lot of discussion with teachers just leaving. I mean, qualified, long-term, long-standing teachers just leaving en masse. because they all seem to walk away saying, I'm not allowed to teach anymore. I can't do this anymore. What are your thoughts on the current leadership of the administration and the past school board?
I'll be honest with you. I think that Dr. McIntyre is not effective at the moment because teacher morale would not be so low if he were effective. I don't think he's listening because changes are not being made. I don't see him bridging gaps between teachers and school board and himself. And I can give you a real specific example about that. In the teacher survey, 70% of teachers said they did not feel valued as professionals, and they did not feel they had a voice in the future of the schools in Knox County. Yet when teachers came before the school board in August saying that they wanted to make changes in the 2020 plan, Dr. McIntyre said at that meeting they are not in reality. And when you use phrases like that for the people that are at the podium, I find that very disrespectful. And if you've ever been at that podium, it's kind of intimidating anyway. And I've been there many, many times. And I don't remember the successes that I had there or the times that I was praised for being there. What I remember are the 2 times that I was treated very disrespectfully. And that doesn't bridge a gap. That creates a chasm between the school board, the superintendent, and the teachers. And we need to work to get that changed, and we can do that.
Yeah. Who does the superintendent work for?
The school board is the employer of the superintendent, and I think that has been turned upside down somewhat in the last little bit, and that concerns me.
If you were on the board that was just seated, would you have voted for that extension for his contract?
No, his contract already went through the end of 2016. There was absolutely no logical, good reason to commit another $222,000 of taxpayer money to extend his contract to the end of 2017. So no, I would not.
Yeah, and from what I understand, it was at his request that the extension be made. Who does the school board work for?
The school board is elected, and they represent and work for the citizenry. And to me, our main objective is to make sure that every child is getting the best possible education. And I don't think that's happening. One other thing that I feel like about the leadership is that we're stressing graduation rates. And I think they need to be looking more at the SAT, college and career readiness benchmarks, because those benchmarks in math, science, reading, and English are only being met in 40% of the students, and that's the best. Across the county, the rates have stayed constant at around 21% for the last 2 or 3 years. That means that only 21% of people going out into the workforce and out into college are prepared in those 4 areas. So we need to be meeting those benchmarks, or we're giving a roadblock and a handicap to those students. They may be going out with a diploma, but we're doing a great disservice to our students. Yeah,
and we've actually talked quite a bit about that on this show at several times. We're talking, and it's basically the preparation rates for Knox County students. I mean, they push very hard on graduation rates and how many kids are coming out, but the problem is, you know, you can put 100 people into a room, and you can take those 100 people and shove them back out the other side of the room, but if only 5 of them learned whatever they're supposed to learn in that room, you got 95 people walking around going, I have no idea why we were just there. We just wasted our time.
The graduation rates, too, are skewed because we have certificates of attendance being added in. We have what they call grade padding, blitzing, where students can take a few extra assignments in order to pass the class, or credit recovery, where they can take the class over in summer school, which has always been an option, or they can take that class online and get an extra credit in skills and success. So you're actually rewarding that child for failing that class and taking it over by giving them an extra A to add in with their grade point average.
That's crazy. Yeah, the preparation rates looking across the county is just, they're abysmal. 24%. You know, the highest being Farragut High School. You know, a well-funded, well-educated group of students, but their highest is 40% of their students are prepared for either the workforce or college coming out. So 60% of the students at one of the premier high schools in the area, 60% of those students have basically wasted their education for 12 years. They're not ready for anything. And then you look at some place like Austin East, they've actually gone up quite a bit to a whole 3% preparation rate from the 1% they were at a year ago. Yes. 97% of the students coming out of Austin East aren't ready for anything. It just, it absolutely blows your mind.
It does, and that's what we need to be stressing instead of graduation rates.
Yeah. Kids go to school to learn. Teachers go there to teach. If those two things aren't happening, you're doing it wrong. Jamie Rowe is sitting here with us. Her website, Jamie Rowe for schoolboard.com. Jamie Rowe for schoolboard.com. When we get back, we've got another question for you on the text box. We got an email that came in, and we'll talk a little for your vote in the upcoming November 4th election. She is running for the District 2 seat for the Knox County Board of Education, and we've got some folks lining up to ask her some questions on the phone. Our number, 865-243-TALK, 243-8255. But before we get to that phone, I've got an email here concerning Miss Rowe. From our friend Lauren Hobson.
Oh, good. That's cool.
Lauren wrote in saying, just wanted to let you guys know about my experience with Jamie Rowe, which you can share with your listeners. She called me shortly after she decided to run for school board and let me know that she wanted to talk to some teachers so she could get some insight on the happenings in the school system. I let her know that a group of SPEAK members, and that's the students and parents and educators across Knox County.
That's right.
We're getting together the next day to work on recommendations for the 2020 plan. I thought she would show up, chat for a few minutes, and then be on her way. She didn't do that. Instead, this lady sitting here in front of me downloaded the plan, spent all evening reading through it, made comments and suggestions in the margins, worked with us the next day for 3 to 4 hours on the SPEAK recommendations. She continued her involvement with us over the next several weeks. Since then, she has done lots of research on school issues, been to many school board meetings, and met with the groups of teachers and community members regularly. I feel she is truly committed to improving Knox County schools. I fully support her as a candidate, and if I lived in District 2, she would absolutely have my vote. So a ringing vote of confidence from an educator that we hear a lot from on this show, Lauren Hobson.
She's an amazing lady, and I truly appreciate that. That is very humbling.
It's a very brave lady too. She puts her neck out there for a lot of things, and it's all for the kids. I mean, you talk about somebody really doing stuff for the kids. There's one of many that are doing a lot of stuff absolutely for the kids. We have some texts coming in here as well. Gavin says, guys, it's clear Miss Rowe knows what she's talking about. Looks like her opponents have a steep hill to climb if they want to win this election. Gregarious said, shocking that the school board would not give reasons for things they do. He goes on to say, it's sad that the superintendent gets paid $220,000 a year while my child's teacher makes $35,000 a year. My child's teacher has more impact on my son's life than the superintendent ever will. Interesting bit of information there. Our number, 865-243-TALK, 243-8255. We're going to the phones here. We got JB. Really quickly before we get to JB's question, for anybody out there, where does the 2nd District cover? Because we were talking a little bit about that. It's a fairly odd-shaped district.
It is an odd shape. It has Old North, 4th and Gill, North Hills, Fountain City area, part of Alice Bell, Bell Morris. I'm probably forgetting something, but I think that's about all of it. Yeah. Inskip is part of it too. It's just a really big district.
Sure. So if you're not sure exactly where, if you're in the 2nd District or not, you need to go check out knoxcounty.org under the school board and under the school system stuff, and then you can find the district maps there. But yeah, it's a fairly populous district out there. So make sure that you know who your school board member is. I bet you here's a caller who knows exactly what school board member he's got. JB, good morning. You're on with Jamie Rowe.
Well, fellows. Ms. Rowe, you've classed up this joint this morning. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate you doing that.
By the way, I need to make an announcement. In all honesty, Jamie was my probation officer for 2 years. I just made that up. She should have been. By the way, let me just say this. I've known Jamie Rowe, known her work and what she's done in this community for a long time. I don't really throw out too many compliments too easily, but I think that Jamie Rowe is easily one of the most outstanding individuals I've known in this county, and I admire her work in the community and with stormwater and with at Shannondale and at Tremont and everything that she does. And one thing is about Jamie Rowe, I do my research, too. I talked to several present and past county commissioners, and they all have respect for her. She's nobody's rubber stamp, and she's nobody's lapdog, period.
Well, that's good to hear.
Ms. Rowe, let me ask you a quick question, if you would, if you can answer, please.
Sure.
I understand you're planning on taking 20% of your salary. Yes, you do get a huge...
JB?
I think we lost you.
JB, you just dropped off.
to buy books
There you are.
for kids in
Okay,
your
you're back.
district.
JB, repeat what you just said. You just dropped off there for a second.
I said she's going to contribute 20% of her salary to buy textbooks that kids can keep in kindergarten, first and second grade in second district. Is that right?
No, it's not really textbooks. What I want to do, there are a lot of children that don't have that do not have children's books in their homes. And I would like to take 20% of my salary and
Great.
purchase books for first and second graders within that district so that they can take
So
those
while we're
books
paying
home.
money out to Ms. Needham, you're giving money back to children. Is that right? Also, you're going to have a public meeting every month, I understand, for your website. With it once a month, people who come in, the parents, teachers, folks can talk to you face to face. Will you have to go through a chain of command or some sort of loyalty oath to be able to speak to you like that?
No, there's 3 things I want to do, and that I don't think any other school board members do now. I'd like to host that monthly meeting so that teachers would have a venue to come, and parents to come and talk about issues or concerns they have. And also,
face to face without a chain of command?
absolutely, just
Wow.
me. And I also want to dedicate a phone line only to that. And I've told people it's so my husband can't erase my messages, but it's
Hey, wait a minute. You're not supposed to say that.
but it's actually so I can get to those calls and they won't be mixed in with my personal message, and I'll be more efficient about answering calls. And I definitely feel very strongly, and I've already talked to some different groups about the books that I want to contribute. I've talked to the Friends of the Library and the Friends of Literacy. I think I can partner with some other groups and even get some other people involved in it. We can make this maybe countywide, which would be
A
fantastic.
couple of serious questions. We've had
Sure.
a little fun here. Is that this Needham matter disturbs me enormously because it shows a kind of attitude about lack of transparency, concealment, and lack of honesty with the public. We've already given Ms. Needham, either given her or promised her over $100,000, and now she's moving forward, and we still don't know what was going on there. That's disturbing. Something else that happened last night, we found out that the audit committee was supposed to report back on the PPU audit today,
Yeah.
but that's not going to happen. Mr. McIntyre needs more time. He wants more time. He's had his 3 weeks, which is what the law allows. Now he's had 7 months, actually. Are they trying to stretch this out past the election, out past November? I hope Ms. Williams, Andrew Williams there, just goes ahead and releases this and lets the school board have this prior to your reorganization meeting. How do you feel about that, Ms. Rowe?
I had not heard that it wasn't going to be released. I thought it was going to happen
Today was the goal.
And
But evidently
actually,
Mr. McIntyre's asked for more time.
well, actually, as you said, when it was first asked for by Mr. Owenby, Commissioner Owenby, they said 3 to 4 weeks, and like you say, that was 7 or 8 months ago, and that's ridiculous. I think they ought to demand that it be released. There's no reason for that. It's not like they have to get a bunch of stuff together. They can just release the documents they have.
Well, you know, when you got a PPU fund and you're not sure exactly where you're spending it, what you're spending it on, how many times you spent it, and what you've dipped into it for, and exactly where the money went, you know, then it comes down to the deadline like anybody else who ever has to do a budget or ever has to turn in any type of budgetary concerns. He's probably going through his glove box now to find any receipts. He's got to go through that, you know, he's got to go through that little console there in the middle of the seats to see if there's any receipts
There's always
there.
receipts in there.
Go through the wallet 3 or 4 times. The
I
little
got to
val-
check the middle envelopes, too.
Oh, yeah, the middle envelopes. Don't forget the middle
Got to check
envelopes.
those, count those.
Another thing that concerned me was about the $3 million grant that the mayor has given for reading for third graders. When he asked for an accounting of that, he couldn't come up with exactly, Dr. McIntyre could not tell him exactly where those dollars went. We probably will not get that $3 million again, and I don't blame Mayor Burchett, because, if you give something for a specific purpose and it's not used for that's pretty telling, and it's pretty upsetting.
Ms. Rowe, I hope that Ms. Sanger and Ms. Dorsey, maybe they'll join you on this radio station. Have you set up, wasn't there supposed to be a forum with League of Women Voters in September? What happened to that?
Well, they initially called me and asked me to be on the 25th of September, and I told them that was fine. And they checked with the others, and Miss Dorsey was available, Miss Sanger was not. So they asked me for an additional date, and I gave them the 18th. And they checked with Miss Sanger. Miss Dorsey, again, was available for any date, and Miss Sanger said she could not meet on the 18th. Then they asked me for other dates, and I gave them the 23rd, the 29th, and the 30th of September. And when they got back to me, they said Miss Sanger was not available for any date in September. And it makes it hard for candidates to not have a forum until it'll be on the 13th of October. But what disturbed me was that John Becker contacted us and wanted us to be on a TV show, and they're actually going to tape it on September 30th. So I'm a little confused as to why we couldn't do the forum on September 30th, but we can do the TV show. So that's...
Is Miss Sanger traveling to Slovenia regularly in September or what?
JB.
Thank you. I haven't always agreed with you, but I've always felt you're an honest broker, dependable, strong, exactly what we need. And I hope my endorsement doesn't doom you to defeat. But October 6th, the deadline for registering to vote. If you have a question about your registration, call 215-2480. It's time for a change. Ms. Rowe, thank you. You're an agent of change.
Thank you.
Thank you, JB. We appreciate that. We're going to have one more quick break. When we get back, we are finishing up this morning's conversation with Jamie Rowe. She is running for the seat in the 2nd District for Knox County School Board, and that election, of course, coming up on November the 4th. Early voting starting up in just a couple weeks here. As we get a little closer, we'll let you know exactly all the dates and times for everything. But it's a very quick, very condensed election cycle, and this vote on the 4th, on Election Day on the 4th, this will be the only local race that's on that day. And just because it came up kind of out of the blue, Indy Kincannon, the longtime seat holder there in the 2nd District, announcing that she was leaving the country to go with her family. She had an opportunity to travel overseas, so she left her seat. John Fugate filling in the interim. He said he would not run for that seat. 3 names came up to run for that seat in the condensed time period, and of course one of those names with us right now, Jamie Rowe. Her website, jamierowe4schoolboard.com. Jamie, really quickly, in your view of everything, what is the most, concerning budgetary concerns with the school, what is the most important issue facing Knox County schools right now as far as a budgetary standpoint goes?
The things that I would like to see done, I think we need to keep as much money as we can in the classroom. I think we need to use our resources more wisely. I think we need to repair school buildings so every child has a safe, healthy, clean environment in which to learn. But I think the most important thing probably is to work with county commissioners to try to get them to help us get the BEP formula reformulated, because that's where we fall down. We actually rank 11th in giving to per pupil on a local level, but the BEP we're paying in over $50 million and we get $300,000 back. And to use our resources more wisely too, that's something that I think we've got to prove to county commission.
Really, and in fact, that may tie in with this question here off the text box here in the last couple of minutes. Russ says, I've heard a quote that we spend $16,000 per student on average per year to attend public schools. How come that's more than most private schools' tuition? Where's the waste?
I Really need to look at the budget to know that one.
I mean, does the BEP play into that? Because the thing is, we find out we're a donor community. We give more than we get back in.
Right.
So, this per student, we're paying this much. Not all of it's going to our students here locally, is it?
Something's wrong. I think there's a disconnect, and that's what I want to find out. And as I said, I do my own research. I don't just listen to the powers that be. So I'll continue to do that on school board, and I would appreciate your vote.
Yeah, because that's almost double the cost right now. Looking at average private school tuition just for a high school student in Tennessee, $8,800 a year. Private school or public school, $16,000 a year. So we're giving out a lot more that's going back to our kids. Thank you so much, Jamie Rowe.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. We really appreciate it. And very quickly, less than a minute to go, the most important factor facing the biggest problem facing the Knox County schools right now?
I think it has to be communication and trust. There's just a disconnect there that can be bridged, but I don't see any bridges being built.
Well, wonderful. We wish you all the best on the campaign trail. Jamie Rowe for schoolboard.com. Jamie Rowe for schoolboard.com. If you want to find out more about her, you can also email her, jamieroweforschoolboard@gmail.com. For Terry, for Shine, for Miss Jamie Rowe, this is Mike Howard saying thanks so much for being part of the show this morning. Enjoy your Wednesday.